think sports and being an athlete is a great leeway into becoming an entrepreneur because you face a lot of the highs, the lows, and just those emotional swings, right? It becomes normal as an athlete, right? And in business, you get kicked in the crotch at least once a day.
And so that's when I found real estate, and I said, okay, anytime I see a little bit of profit from anything I do in volleyball, I'm going to throw it into a house. I'm going to buy a property. And I've been doing that about one a year since I started that mindset.
Everything's like short form video across all these platforms. We have very small attention spans, so it's got to be very exciting. Everything's going to keep changing. And so
how was that different from what you did in the past? That change in marketing. So you moved to the short form, like under 90 seconds, YouTube Shorts, Reels, etc. And I see you. It's nice to see you coaching and doing the kind of green screen in the background while video's happening. Hey everybody, my name is Mark Burrick, and you are on the Entrepreneurship and the Better at Beach Volleyball podcast. For Better at Beach, this is a dual podcast. For Better at Beach, we talk all things volleyball, specifically beach volleyball. And for Entrepreneurship, we talk to people who have made or are turning their fitness, athletic, or sport passion into a business. So if you are of the entrepreneurial mindset and you're kind of a jock, well, this is going to be a great episode for you because Reid, our guest today, has built multiple businesses, been a part of multiple businesses. His entire working life has been in and around sports, and he has a tremendous online following and a great volleyball workout program for strength and vertical jump. And that's called Reid's Workout. So if you check him out at Reid's Workouts, another great volleyball strength and conditioning program where he can offer you templates as well as customized training systems for that. So we are going to get into it. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of all the businesses that he's been through and what he's learned and how he can coach you, or what advice he would give you if you were starting your sport or coaching business. Without further ado, Reid Hall, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, I appreciate you having me on here. And as Mark mentioned, I've been someone around the volleyball space for a long time. Like I was a young athlete. Like I started playing volleyball when I was 12. And, when I was 23 years old, that's when I switched over into business and started becoming an entrepreneur. So I'm 35 now. So I've had 12 years in the trenches learning a lot of hard lessons.
Nice. You've started competing with the Canadian beach volleyball national team. So that was your main sport. Now, the companies that I see have all circled around volleyball and fitness. Did you play any other sports before college, before university, or during it? And was the first business you said you started at 23, was that your first entrepreneurial endeavor?
Yeah, it was. I did play other sports than volleyball. I played basketball is my favorite sport, even though I played on the national team for volleyball. I'm a big basketball fan. Believe it or not, in my call yesterday, I had a Zoom call with Kendall Gill, who played in the NBA for 16 years. His son is one of the best basketball players in the USA. He's 16, and he's just started our online program, which is pretty cool. But
Great.
Basketball has been always been my favorite sports and passions, and lacrosse. So there's those three sports. And, I think sports and being an athlete is a great leeway into becoming an entrepreneur because you face a lot of the highs, the lows, and just those emotional swings, right? It becomes normal as an athlete, right? And in business, you get kicked in the crotch at least once a day. So you got to get used to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of pain involved. We just went through something kind of personal with one of our team members who's solid, and we set these milestones and goals, and we didn't reach them. And there's a specific pay system for that. And we had to have a conversation, and it was just like, hey, this is just like in sports. Like you can do all of the lifts you want. You can put in all of the reps you want, but if you don't get results, you don't get paid. And that's what I think entrepreneurs understand well, that the owners, the CEOs of companies, they know every single day that they have to perform or they don't eat, they don't pay rent, period. It's tough, I think, for people who haven't been in that life for a long time to understand that. But I also think that athletes, and it's not all athletes that are listening, but I think athletes understand, yeah, I can work as hard as I want, but I have to win. I actually have to put points on the board. And I know that a lot of club coaches run into the struggle of parents saying how much their kid is doing and that they're not playing or they're not competing. And I'm still of the ilk that the best players should play. If you're putting points on the board, if you're getting the reps in practice, you're doing all of the things and you're showing performance, this is where performance is merited. I'm not a purple ribbon guy. And so I know, I know you know the lifestyle, and I do want to hear that story of your business being hacked and taken over after nearly $500,000 in revenue. That must have been awful. We just went through some hacks on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, and you feel so helpless. But so tell me, so walk me through going through university. What did you study, and how did you decide while playing on the beach national team that you're just going to start a business?
Yeah, so I studied kinesiology throughout university. So my life has always revolved around sport. And I come from like a weird upbringing. Like so my dad was a very successful businessman, but he went through a lot of problems and challenges. And my dad actually ended up committing suicide when I was in high school. And we went from having a lot of money to having $0. So we had no money. So I've always looked at money as from like a survival thing. Like growing up, like we needed more dollars. Like I can't live without any money. I don't have like supports, like all the support systems in place that everyone else would have. So whenever I was competing in beach volleyball, and we're not making a lot of money there, Mark, when we're playing beach volleyball, is always had to create other revenue streams for myself. So at the time, probably similar to you, as I started running like small group, like volleyball training sessions for beach volleyball players. I was running private sessions. I was, working at camps for other people. I was just doing every damn thing. And when I was
it's like, why would you choose another office, right? Like if you're already on the court on the beach, why would you choose another office when you could just say, all right, I'll stay for an hour or two after practice. Now I don't have that transit time, and it works. I think a lot of athletes and sport coaches are like, yeah, I love the gym, so why wouldn't I also make money while I'm here? Mm-hmm. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, and originally when I started doing these businesses, I'm like, I'm going to make all this money so I can further my beach career and become more and more successful. Mm-hmm. But the problem I ran into is as my businesses grew, I somehow was getting worse at beach volleyball. I was more burnt out. I was more exhausted. Like, what's going on here? Like I'm doing the right things. But I realized you only have so many hours in the day. When you go 100 miles per hour, 24 hours a day, you're not going to perform as well for beach volleyball. So there was like having to be a decision to be made, right? And that was one of the hard decisions that I learned, is that you need to focus on one thing. When you chase two things at the same time so aggressively, one is always going to suffer a little bit. And so that's kind of what transitioned me. So in the business world, so it started off as just like coaching beach volleyball, doing personal training. Then eventually I partnered with a facility where we started training a lot more volleyball players. And this is like the strength and conditioning type of thing. And then slowly after that, we started a beach volleyball club. But that was my initial like working experience. It was all training, beach camps, personal training, all in-person stuff, but always my time for $1. It's like, if I want to make more money, I got to work my head into the ground even harder and harder and harder. And I did over time realize that's not the best way, but I'm not sure if you want to get into that part next or where you want to go here, bud.
No, expound on that, because I know if people aren't used to listening to business podcasts, they talk about lots of entrepreneurs, business people, real estate people, they talk about mailbox money or making money while you sleep. And I know that personal training, there are some people that can charge $500 or $1,000 an hour. You can market yourself as that guy and then chase the 1% of clients. But there is a point where if you stop working, you become the bottleneck to your own income. Whereas if you can set up some systems or a different style of business, for us at Better at Beach, with our online volleyball courses, it's okay. Now, when I'm coaching 12 people on the beach, I also might be coaching 10, 20 people through a video online, which means that I don't necessarily have to be coaching on the beach. And it sounds like you figured that out way faster than I did. And it was interesting to hear you talk about the going full time at both. I'm realizing for the first time now, or I did just before I had my baby, I retired from volleyball so that I could spend a lot of time with my kid. And for the first time ever, I'm working full time with my company, but I'm realizing that I'm also working full energy. And I'm so much better. Like, I was definitely working full time on the company and full time on beach volleyball, but I was not full energy at both. And they were both kind of crappy and frustrating. And so I went through that exact same process, just didn't learn my lesson quite as fast as you did. So I do want to get into that, how you're maximizing your dollars per hour, or how you're multiplying yourself, if we could say it that way.
Yeah. So like, well, with what I'm currently doing, so my online training program, I have other coaches that support me. So essentially we have in the inside of our program. So to give you some details about our program, so we deliver all our training through an app, right? And in our app, you get your personalized workouts and all that stuff. And you have the ability to track your metrics. You can leave videos. And then I have what's called vert and strength specialists that go on there. They look at your video, like your exercise execution. They give you feedback. So we have a whole team that kind of supports us. And we're all like high level people in either the strength and conditioning field or the volleyball field or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, my role right now is I do consultations, I do sales calls, and, I'll do like, feedback with the athletes, communicate with them. But I got a lot of other coaches to support me along the way. I also have someone online on my social media that will answer messages, will reach out to people. I got someone that edits my videos. I got someone that, helps manage all my finances and books. So if you're going to say, how do I multiply my time? I do it by building a team of people around me where we have very defined responsibilities and we're bought in and we have systems that support ourselves. Because what I used to do is absolutely everything, right? Mm-hmm. I would do, consultation calls. I would design all their programs. I'd reach out to everyone. I'd do all my marketing. I would do all of everything. And when you do that, you kind of suck at all of them because no one's a jack of all trades, right? So for me to be able to scale what I've been doing, or to multiply myself, it's been figuring out how to add other team members properly.
Now, at what point did you add your first team member? What was your first hire? And if you were to do it again, what would be your first hire, or would you do it any differently?
Okay, so the first thing is I try to build teams of people help me for a long period of time. So in my earlier businesses, I used to get some other coaches that would help me with my personal training or small group training. And then we started a beach club where we had wasn't huge, but we had like 150 athletes. It was still like a decent sized beach club, right? And we hired many coaches. And I found it really easy to work with beach coaches and hire them. But I found it much more difficult that we opened a 50,000 square foot strength and conditioning facility called the Athlete Matrix.
So this is when I started to struggle. Did you start with a partner? Were you able to purchase
you want
it?
to go into a story? This is going to be a good.
Yeah.
You want to hear a good business story?
Because I want a facility, but it's so daunting to look at buying land or building a facility. You're just looking at it and going, oh my God. And everybody's like, oh, just raise money. All right. So
I'm a big believer that anytime you meet someone, you want a good experience. You want to communicate with them. You want to build good relationships. Mm-hmm. So I was running my personal training business. This wouldn't be maybe 26 years old. Let's just say 26 years old. I'm running my personal training business and small group business. And some of the volleyball people I train had very wealthy parents. And what happened was these wealthy parents connected to me, this other guy, and I can't say his name, but he is a legit billionaire. And he's a very successful businessman. And I started becoming his personal trainer. And when you just talked about, the coaches that charge someone $1,000 an hour, this is my first breakthrough. He asked me, how much does it cost to train with you? He's like, wants to train me 3 times a week. I'm like, I came with this number, $100,000 for this year. It's $100,000 to train with me for this year. And he didn't even flinch. He goes, done. Okay. So now I got this client. I charge him $100,000 for the year. We're supposed to do 3 workouts per week. He only does 1 because he's got to cancel on 2 of them. He's so busy. And I was like, this is my first experience. I'm like, oh, okay, I can just charge way more for certain things, right? And we built a really good relationship. Our workout, we would do 3 to 4 exercise and we'd talk about sports and business. And for me, this was a great opportunity because I learned a lot about business from him, but also I learned a valuable lesson is don't undervalue yourself. I know you can't charge everyone that, but I learned that that's possible. What happened was I was training him, and then eventually stopped training. Something he had some life issues and things happened, right? And I haven't heard from him for 6 months, right? I get an email saying, Reid, I bought the Ontario Blue Jays and a facility. I need to meet with you immediately. And then basically I had a meeting with them. We decided to partner up and open up this facility called the Athlete Matrix. And we opened it up one of the companies that he owned was called the Ontario Blue Jays, which is our most successful amateur baseball organization. So they're already all in our facility. I took all the volleyball athletes we're training into this facility, and we created the brand called the Athlete Matrix. And throughout the time, it's a 50,000 square foot facility. We had 3 gyms in there, a full sports medicine clinic, almost the size of like half a football field of open turf. This is like an athlete's dreamland. And this is what I've been doing for the last, I guess, 8 years up into this past year. And this past year, what happened was Amazon or another, I don't want to go too deep into it, but all the area around us was getting bought up. And so we ended up just kind of exiting at that point. I've
like
now
the
started
physical land?
Partnering with a new facility.
You mean like the physical land around you? Amazon was buying it for like storehouses and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so basically our area, they're going to put fulfillment centers. So they're trying to buy up a lot of land. So we were leasing the land where it was at. Right. And I can't go into too much details about all that stuff, but regardless, I had to transition out of there at that point and started a new company or a new training business. But this is when I've put more and more of my energy into my online training space. Right. And that's my Reid's workouts is based on the Vert Strength Optimization program. And that's where we do all the training for like our volleyball athletes. So it's been a lot of changes and moving in different directions. But I really feel like that's what business is. It's like a bumpy ride, and, you're going to get opportunities, and, you're going to get some lows, but you just kind of keep chipping away and pushing through it type of thing.
Yep. Yeah. You make mistakes. We had to, I recently I try to give people as much as I possibly can in terms of like employees. And I made this mistake. You know when you go to the opposite end of a spectrum from one mistake because of what you thought it was, like, all right, I didn't get my hands together in time. So now when I'm passing, so now I'm just going to start before the serve even happens. Like I'm going to start with my hands together. And then you eventually find some middle ground that you're happy with. But I hired I was training managers to take over our Salt Lake City program. And one by one, when I was due to leave in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, everybody who I had trained to take over a program that I spent 8 months building, they all either got like an increase in their other job. They thought something else was more steady. They all just bailed for whatever reason, and they had good reasons. And I was like, shoot. Okay, lesson learned. I have to pay people first and make sure that they feel secure enough to have the job to keep going. So that's what I did this time around. And so I gave everybody more money than they were worth at the time, hoping that they would grow into these salespeople and producing and everything. And we've run out of money again. So now I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. It's been a pretty heartbreaking week for me. We've had to cut a lot and really lean out. It's really been rough, but we're not into the ground yet. But if we had continued, it would have been like, this isn't going to continue. So now, again, I have to like bounce back to that other side of the spectrum until I find my happy medium. And that hiring process is tough. So I have 2 questions for you going into that. Again, I still want to hear about your first hire, but as far as the partnership, could you tell me about that first? Yeah. I think people struggle, and I know that I do, to understand or be really comfortable with true partnerships. I've done it in terms of loans and hard money loans, but I've never done a true like business partnership. And this guy had billions, and you were a volleyball player. So what does the partnership look like?
Okay. So like, first of all, like he's not a volleyball guy. He's a sports fan, but he doesn't know any about that stuff. He is the money guy. And we knew that right away. Reid, you have to be the person that grows the business. I'm money. I can put fuel on the fire, and we got to make this happen, right? And so our partnership was made total sense, right? Like he's going to give some advice. He's not going to be coming to the facility. He's not going to have, he's going to be dumping money into it. So he has my support, but it's on me to come up with the business plans, to decide who's to hire, and to do all those things. So when you're creating a partnership, one of the most important things I think is you need a clear vision together. I'm this person, you're that person. Here's our responsibilities. Here's what we need to funnel down below. And so with him, and that's with the facility, it all made sense. He's money and I'm sweat equity, right? I'm chipping away and working to earn my value or, my shares in the company or whatever you want to call it. Right. And so that's how that partnership worked. But and you don't know when they're going to happen, because this partnership for me came out of nowhere. Right. I was training him, he stopped. I haven't heard from him from 6 months. He just made a big move and, bought the Ontario Blue Jays, which is the amateur baseball organization. There's this land, the location. And so I was the first person on his mind when he thought about that. And that's why I think it's important to, create those good relationships, because you don't know when it happens. But I've had 2 other partnerships. So one of my beach partner, that I played with, we actually played the Junior World Championships together. We finished 4th at one of those Junior World Championships. We beat United States in the quarterfinals, so deal with that. But
who was it?
What's that?
Who was it?
It was Mark Van Zwieten and Joey Dykstra. It was the
Van
U18
Zwieten and
World
Dykstra.
Championship.
Yeah. Dude, they're
and you know who we lost to in the semifinals? We lost to Bartman and Kubiak. So Kubiak's like the captain of the Polish national team, and Bartman was one of the best right sides in the world. And they signed a contract that they couldn't play beach after that tournament because they're already signed to the Polish national team. And they almost got into a fist fight during our match in the semifinals with each other because we were 2 short little skinny kids that were just like chipping balls around. They're going up and bouncing balls, but we're just wearing them down. Sorry, that was a sidetrack. We're talking about partnerships. So I ended up partnering with my old beach partner, and we're the ones who started the beach club with. And it worked so well because we had the same vision, the same mindset. Where another time I've had a very unsuccessful partnership, and is when you alluded to before, when one of my online companies, I started this about 8 years ago, and it's basically a platform where everyone got a login and password. It's like strength training for volleyball players, but they could access everything. We had this big platform, right? Mm-hmm. And I started a partnership with 2 guys I knew from university. They weren't athletes, but they were like tech people and all this stuff. And that business was so hard to run. It was a disaster because everyone was butting heads. We weren't on the same vision. We weren't in the same place. So if I can say anything with partnerships, is make sure there's defined roles. This person is that, you are this. And is there a vision that you guys can work together on? Because if you don't know that ahead of time, there's a lot of problems that can come up.
When you partnered with the other volleyball player to start it was a volleyball club?
Yeah, it was called Legacy Beach Volleyball.
Okay. What were your roles then? I mean, it sounds like maybe you were the same age, of the same, almost skill in volleyball. Did you guys both know what you were good at? Did you have meetings in advance to say, I'm going to do this, this, and this. You're going to do this and this and this? Because for me and Brandon, we're actually very, very similar. Mm-hmm. So we're one of the few partnerships that just works based on 2 guys moving forward equally, and pushing forward. I do make a lot more of the business decisions, like the giant strategies, and I kind of go guerrilla warfare on a lot because I know the technical side more after doing it for longer. But we don't have like you only do this because you're great in this and I only do this. And we're still working. We're alive. So did you guys, you and your partner, did you have specific roles, and what were they?
We did. And I think he was a very good complementary piece to me, because I'm someone that's like foot on the gas all the time, go, 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 go. And, sometimes I just like think out in the sky, and I'm just not like, he was very much more calm, relaxed. Is like, so like our personalities worked well together. But initially when we started, it was just us 2. And then we like hired like a couple assistant coaches to help with the volleyball. So he's running all of like the administrative stuff. So like replying to emails, reaching out. For me at the time, I was starting to get better with social media. So I was doing more of the social media stuff. And then we just knew that we're kind of sharing coaching responsibilities with beach volleyball, but it's kind of like, you lead these ones, I lead those ones, you act as an assistant here. So we were on the same page, right?
Okay. And then with the tech guys, when you started the online platform, what were the issues there that you run onto that from that time in your life, what lesson or lessons could you give to somebody else just regarding the division of labor or the wrong partnership? What specifically could you get into it?
So like my vision with that is I wanted to create the sickest platform ever for volleyball players to do their strength and conditioning and their training. But the people I partner with, the tech people and all those, they don't care if the platform's like sick. They care if it's generating more and more and more revenue at all costs. And I'm big on like customer service. And I want everyone that's buying that, I want them to be over deliver. I want them to feel incredible. I want the, repeat customers. They just cared about the money coming in and the marketing. And, I'm concerned about or is everyone renewing and staying in there? So the visions weren't aligned properly. And that was my fault. Like, to be honest, they contacted me, you know, I knew them from university, but they saw what I was doing. They're like, listen, we came together and do all these things. You know what I did is I made too quick of a decision. I didn't talk enough about the direction that we wanted to move into. We just saw an opportunity and got too excited around the opportunity. Instead of dial back the excitement, stay even keel, write out a full business plan, plan everything out kind of ahead of time, and just see if, like, did the parts fit properly? And I never figured out whether the parts fit properly. And essentially it kicked me in the butt later.
Yeah. And it's funny that if they're being money guys, that they were ignoring recurring revenue, repeat customers, because it's so much easier to keep customers. It's way cheaper than going out and getting new ones, you know? And then you get super fans who will just be with you for 8, 9, 10 years. Like, we've got one guy who has been with me the entire 8 years and has come to a minimum of 1 camp per year. And you're just like, you're still hanging out, man. This is absolutely awesome. You know, so it's surprising, because if you are the money guy and you know small business or business in any way, you have to know that keeping that customer is way more profit for you than trying to find a new one. So it's, once you get somebody, once you get a client, treat them like kings and queens, because you now have money in the bank. Instead of, I think people just keep trying to get people in the door, and then your service gets worse every person you add. I see these monster volleyball clubs and people growing, and I'm like, you don't have any other quality coaches in your area. And you say, oh, we've got 100 new signups, and now you're just hiring parents to coach. You're going to, in 2 years, you're going to turn out an unorganized, crappy athlete with nobody getting scholarships because there's no training systems in place. And your club's going to die because you didn't build it on taking care of the people that you have until you had more people to take care of more people. Like, you can't grow beyond your level of service, because once somebody gets a distaste for a company or a person, they don't come back.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what determines whether your thing is good or not. Do people renew and buy it again? If they buy it again, that's their compliment to you. That's them saying, yes, this was good. Here's some more money. You delivered on the promises that you made, right? But the problem is also, when I partnered with those guys, we're like 26, 27 years old. I've been around the block a lot more. This is kind of like their first thing, you know. They don't have the experience. They don't know all the things that you would know. They just don't have the level of experience of that. So, and also when you're scraping by with money, sometimes you make very reactive decisions. Yes. And that's where you get into big trouble, right? Because I think about business. I see a lot of people playing checkers out there instead of playing chess. They're looking at like one move at a time, where I'm trying to look 10 moves ahead. I understand these pieces move in all different directions. How can I align my chessboard so that I can move things and scale for the future? Right now is good, but what about then? What's your vision down there? And how do we chip away and keep going there? Because if you have the big vision, you're eventually going to be pulled and drawn there. It might not happen right away, but it's going to happen over time. So I see a lot of people in businesses, whether these beach clubs are selling all these things, it's all about right now. How do I make the dollar right now? How do I come up with the promotion and marketing for this? But what about that? And then this and this? Because if these people like this, they're going to want to do that. They're going to want to keep moving up. So I see a lot of people just not with the longer term vision, because people heavily overestimate the improvements you can make in the short term, but heavily underestimate the improvements you can make in the long term. In the short term, you might not get a lot better really quickly at anything. You might not get massive growth, but in the long term, if you keep chipping away, it can be incredible. The only problem is people won't stick along long enough to get to that point.
That's true in so many things, right? I mean, I know like 100%, you know, from the people who sign up for your lifting program, and the same people that show up for practices, the same people that show up for workouts consistently, everybody sees that initial jump. Boom. You know, the first 2 to 4, sometimes 8 weeks, if they've never lifted or played the sport before, you're just jumping levels. But the key to somebody who improves big and hits huge levels is that they just show up consistently doing long-term things. And you're not trying to hit a max lift at every workout thinking that you can go in a week from a 185 bench press to a 225. Like, dude, this might be an 8-month process for you. So you're going to have to move 2 more pounds every week, and you're going to have to do that for 8 months. You're not going to skip this. You're not going to get this vertical in the, no matter what the marketing says, you're not going to get this massive vertical after that initial jump. I will say from experience that everybody who's not on a program, everybody who doesn't have even as just as simple as mobility, a mobility program or a lifting program, the 3 inches in 4 weeks, 6 inches in 4 weeks, that's legit. I know from our programs, we've seen that without a doubt. But it's just people unlocking their body and teaching their nervous system and their muscles like, hey, let's get consistent. Let's treat your body like an athlete. And it responds. It responds quickly. After that, then it's back to that slow, annoying growth. But you got to stick with it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's one of those cool things that we apply as trainers, kinesiologists, and athletes into our business. We know that you're going to see this little jump and then you're going to crawl for a while, but you have to do it every day. You have to put in the reps in order to see the long-term growth and success.
Mm-hmm. I see one major common danger for former athletes that become entrepreneurs, and I think they run into this more than the typical person.
Ooh, that's
so
exciting.
I want to give you a story, and I got to relate this because this was actually my problem. Okay, but this story is unrelated. This will segue. So when I was 16 years old, I was the short, skinny kid, and I didn't have a very high vertical, and I was pretty insecure about it because I'm playing volleyball against everyone. They're all like bigger people, like bigger dudes. I'm like, man, I just got no bounce, right? So I would have done anything to jump higher, literally anything. And I didn't know what to do, but I would have done anything. So I started running 3 miles a day, and I started doing this plyometric routine on the cement. And I jumped 0 inches higher, and I developed patella tendonitis.
Yeah.
So although I was motivated and super disciplined, I was channeling all my energy in the wrong direction. And this is what I think a lot of athletes do when they start business. They're so used to, it's just me. I put in my effort, my energy. It's all about me. I can do everything. I can do this. What happens is they end up burying their head in the ground and working themselves into death. Although they're motivated, they're disciplined, they're channeling all their energy in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So they just get kicked in the butt over and over and over again because they think they can do everything. Instead, you want to be more of a coach. Think about yourself as a coach, coaching a team. Oh, I'm coaching other people. I'm bringing other people in, or I'm doing these things. It's once again playing chess instead of checkers. Mm-hmm. And not all athletes struggle in this, but I feel like some athletes, when they go into business, they do it harder that way and they get harder consequences.
Yeah, it's funny. Exactly like you said, you can work hard and pride yourself on it. And I had a coach tell me once that I was too comfortable being in pain. And she's like, you have to learn how to win now, how to get out of a workout. Like, you can't love work for work's sake and pride yourself on that. You got to show results. And that, I replay that exact speech every day in like business. And now same thing with the employees that I've hired. I'm like, hey guys, I appreciate that you're working hard, but hard work is not a merit on its own. We also have to produce results. So if you're working in the wrong direction, if you're working all these hours, but you're not producing, well, there's no point. There's no money coming in. We can't put food on people's tables, and you're not going to have a job, and I'm not going to have a job. So if you're at that crossroads, and I think this is where a business coach really a mentor, a business coach really can just change your game, because you can just come to this fork in the road. And if somebody just points and says, go that way instead of that way, you're going to have an easy walk. You're going to get to the destination faster. But, you're at that choice. And if you don't have a guide, you might choose going through the woods and shrubs and having to climb 10 mountains before you actually get to your destination. And just one meeting a week or one meeting every 2 weeks with somebody way smarter than you who has done your business or has done multiple businesses, they're going to save you so much time. And we know that as coaches from sports, people can work as hard as they want in the wrong direction. And I was exactly like you. I was doing 2.5 mile runs, 3 mile runs. And I was like, yeah, I'm putting in the work, but it was for jumping. And it just crushed my vertical. And for those of you who don't know, and you're listening, if you want to train to be explosive and fast, you're moving in the wrong direction if you're going for long form cardio. If you're just like putting in 10-mile bike rides and 5-mile runs, you're just going to grow the wrong type of muscle fibers. You're going to create the wrong responses in your body, and your body's going to get very good at being at a slow speed for a long time, and it won't dedicate its energy and resources to creating explosive muscles and the energy systems and nervous system adjustments that are required for those sports. So unless you love it, and it's just as important for your vertical, stop the long form cardio. If you want to be explosive, you got to find another way. I don't know if you 100% agree with that, but that's from all of the data. That's what we see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's the thing that they need to over focus on. Unless they do other things as well and they like doing that. It really depends on them. But yeah, you going for a long run is probably not going to help you jump higher if that's what we're thinking about here.
Yeah. I do have a question. You said that you now have an app, and we've also been considering doing the app. We do a Facebook group, and we bring everybody in there. They post their videos. But I've also done the knees over toes guy, and I've been on his app, and you're not on a Facebook group and you see commentary. Part of what I love about the Facebook group is that we get to coach somebody, and then everybody gets to see how and why we're coaching that person. So you might not have a question, but you listen to somebody else's question, you watch them get coached, and then you learn something. Some of the apps I know don't have that community page, and you just coach a person individually in a silo. And I don't think I love that. But I haven't seen all of the apps available. So did you build your own?
No.
Or did you sign up for one?
We didn't build our own app. I've looked at, okay, funny story. Here we go. Back at the facility, we got we bought someone developed, but we got this custom app that we cost like $60,000 to get done.
Jesus.
We didn't use that thing for more than 4 months. We just burned $60,000. The thing sucked. And then, like a year later, you see all these other platforms come out like True Coach, Trainerize. You got to pay this small monthly fee and you get this app and you can put everything in there and their technology is way better. So the problem with creating your own app is anytime there's updates and bugs, it's thousands and thousands of dollars to keep everything up to pace and updated. So we did not buy our own app. We just basically kind of white label the app type of thing.
Okay. That's what one of my guys told me. One of my tech guys is like, I don't think you guys should do your own app because then you're relying on the 1 or 2 builders. And if they're on vacation somewhere and there's an update from iOS, like, you have a broken app for 2 weeks until homeboy decides to get back and work on the thing that he promised you 4 years ago. Yeah. So the bigger companies might be a better way to go for that.
We need to be extremely nimble right now, more than ever. And I'm going to say this, technology is going to change so fast right now. We have no idea. Do you want an app? Okay, well, there's going to be something sicker out next year. Oh, you were using apps now? Okay, now we got a wall that does this. And you're like, things like, with obviously AI coming out and all this stuff, things are going to advance so quickly, and you're going to be riding a bull and you're just going to try and not fall off. You need to stay on there. So the reason I would say don't buy your own app, because in a year from now, things might look a lot different. There might be new resources you can use. So it's going to be ever changing. So, that's probably not motivating for anyone to hear, but I'm just saying, be ready for things constantly changing. Like the way that I generate revenue now with my online business, my marketing starts completely different than 2 years ago. It's all changed, right? Everything's like short form video across all these platforms. We have very small attention span, so it's got to be very exciting. Everything's going to keep changing. And so
how is that different from what you did in the past? That change in marketing. So you moved to the short form, like under 90 seconds, YouTube Shorts, Reels, etc. And I see you. It's nice to see you coaching and doing the kind of green screen in the background while video's happening. I'll tell you right now, I don't do any of my social media. I can't edit a video for the life of me. It takes hours. I'm terrible at it and I hate it. So I put that in other people's. When you see an ugly post and you know that visually it's ugly, it's something that I put out there. Like if you ever look at my profile. So I'm kind of like jealous of the green screen that you got, but even me figuring out how to do that is going to, well, I guess it's probably just one phone call away from the person who you thought was doing it. But it's also 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours of research. And if you're going to build your own app, okay, I will say, I'm not going to say don't go build an app right now. What I will say is check out the time that it's going to take you to open it up, to learn it, and to implement it. And if it's going to take you a week or 2, I'd say weeks got to be your cap. Otherwise, just sell more.
Mhm.
And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to try to like market, sell, create programs. If we have to dedicate 3, 4, 5 weeks to get migrating everything to a new platform while everything is so quickly changing, it's not going
Oh
to be
yeah.
worth it for us.
You started mentioning something I think is important for people to hear. So you are similar to me now. We're similar. We're thinking who instead of how all the time. When you think how can I do this? How can I start this? How can I do this? Instead of like, oh, that's cool. Who can I hire? Who can I put in place to make this happen? Like even with my social media, I don't do like my editing, those captions you see on those fancies. I don't do that stuff. But there's this book, and when I say who, not how, it's a really good book. I forget who it's called, but my business coach recommended me to read it. And it just made me look at everything differently. So when you first start a business, it's all on you. You're pretty much wearing all the hats because you need to have revenue. You don't have the money. But now when the money's there, if you keep doing everything, it's always you. And instead of how can this be done? Who can I bring in here to do these things instead of just me doing everything? That's when you really actually start to develop a business. And what I didn't understand when I was younger, I thought everything was going to be better if I did everything. And then I realized things are way better now when I put experts and people that are very successful in those other unique areas. Because if you do everything, you suck at certain things. Even if you don't know you suck, and it's affecting your business. And what you want to find out first is, what do I suck at? I'm sorry for using the word suck, but trust me, everyone out there running a business, you suck at stuff, right?
Yeah.
You got to find, how do we fill in those gaps with human beings? So one, you got to identify the things you suck at. And number two, you got to figure out, how can we bring people in there to stop me from sucking that? Or you can learn all the things so you don't suck at it anymore. But the problem with doing that is it costs extreme amounts of time. If you're already running a business, then something else is going to suffer. And this is, once again, moving chess pieces instead of moving checkers, like one movement here, right? And so, I don't know, I think the mindset, who instead of always how, is pretty important.
Yeah. And if you enjoy something, so for me, I like writing. I really do. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing multiple drafts. So blog writing and email writing. I've written like 90% of our emails that go out to our people, and it's fun for me. It's interesting. But even though I enjoy it and I want to do it, if I leave me as the only person who does that or who is responsible for it, and I get busy with another task, nobody is writing a blog, nobody is sending an email. So there still has to be, even if you're doing something, it's not something that you like, but if you're doing something on a regular basis, you have to start thinking, who can be looking over my shoulder right now that can either copy it, create their own version of it, or I know has already done it and done it at a way higher level than me so that I can hire. And we've hired one person, actually two people, our Facebook ads person, and another guy who came from the tech world, but just short stints with us because they're super expensive and it didn't turn into crazy good profit right away. But those are the only two hires that I was like, these guys are sick at what they do. So I'm willing to pay for them, but I haven't been able to hold on to any monsters like, 6-figure salespeople that will just make 20 calls a day to volleyball clubs or anything like that. And it's something I want, I really want, but for now, I'm still hiring majority volleyball players and coaches and trainers. Looking for that whale though.
Hiring salespeople is something that I haven't done in my company yet. Like I am mainly the sales. If there's like a face-to-face sales type of thing or like that type of stuff, I haven't been able to hire. That's a hard one. That's a hard hire. Where in other industries, there's more salespeople that are trained in that. But volleyball is so specific that you need someone with a unique skill set of high levels of knowledge, fitness training, and the ability to sell. And that's a hard one to find, right?
Yeah.
And in this, similar to you, in terms of the internal aspects of my app, I have 3 coaches internally that help me. And one of them's they're professional volleyball players, strength coaches, physiotherapists. They're people that have been in the trenches that I've coached. Like one of my coaches has worked with me in person for 5 years. They transitioned online. One of our coaches was part of U.S. national team program for a while, plays professionally in Portugal. She is, she understands it. She's also been through it, done kinesiology. She's a strength coach and all this stuff. So I've been able to find pieces from people that I either have done my program or just people that have been in my network that have kind of followed along. Because if you get enough people and you treat people well enough, they'll stick around. When they stick around, they eventually get better and better, and you can kind of groom in. But it's very hard in our industry for us to go out there and look for people. Oh, I need people from out here and here. It's very tough. It's like we got to track them internally. And then when it comes to good marketing people and stuff, you got to spend a lot of money on that stuff. That's going to cost some dollars to get the good stuff, right? And sometimes that's scary because you might not get all the results right away, right?
Yeah, it's an investment instead of a dollar for dollar. It's so hard for me to hire some roles like blog writers, YouTube managers, and say, I need a dollar for dollar value on that. You know, there are some of the metrics that I'm starting to see that I'm finally understanding, like, okay, if we get this many emails from YouTube, that will equate to that many dollars on average in sales. So this is what my YouTube manager, this is what you're in charge of. You need to get this many opt-ins per month. And I will create a page for you. I'll create a specific form for you. But I know that, 1 in 10 of our email lists become a buyer at some point, right? So now we have those calculations. It's like, this is what you're responsible for. But even blogs, what is a blog writer or SEO person worth? That's so hard to value, and you just keep making guesses, and I've never found an accurate way to be like, yeah, they kick butt. So every time I hire one of those role, I go, and you're also a salesperson. And like, this is how much you have to sell. Here's your codes, and go get it done, and tell me every time that you've locked down a sale through a personal contact or something, because that makes me feel better, instead of just shooting work into the dark and hoping that it's paying off. So I'm struggling with the KPIs of the SEO KPIs are tough for me.
I can't give much information about that. Like for our company, what I used to do, which is a big problem, is I used to focus on YouTube. I used to focus on Facebook. I used to focus on Instagram. I used to focus on email marketing. And you know what? I kind of was okay at all of them, but okay is not good enough. Instead, for one of the transitions that I did is I've doubled down and focused on very couple things and be excellent at those couple things. And then although I'm sharing some short form videos to YouTube and some other thing, it's not catered towards there. It's catered towards Instagram. I'm focusing on Instagram. This is what I'm going to be excellent at. This is where I'm going to make a lot of money. And I just have people repurpose the other stuff. They're just going to repurpose it for me on the other platforms. But I'm focusing on this. And then when this gets big enough, you start focusing on the others. So I've just now diversified where, I've been focused on Instagram quite a bit. Now I'm starting to focus on some of the other areas because I've made this big community here, right? But before that, although I had 30,000 email subscribers, we got about 30,000 YouTube subscribers. It doesn't matter. It was I wasn't doing it well. You know what I mean? I needed to do one excellent, because trust me, there's so many people on Instagram. There's so many people on TikTok. There's so many volleyball players there, or whatever it is. It's just, you got to know how to cast the lure in the ocean and how to actually reel out some fish. You know what I mean? When I was using all those platforms, how did I know if I was doing well or not? Sure, I was getting sales from all these places, but is it good or bad? What can I relate it to? But when you focus on one platform, one thing, and get excellent at that, your numbers, if you're improving, then diversify. So that's one of the hard lessons because I just felt like I was trying hard at doing everything, but it's hard to be good at everything. So my YouTube videos kind of suck. You should watch my first YouTube video. I swear it looks like it was porn. It was so bad. And man, that's my video. It's got 1 million plus views. It's my only video that gets so many views. And I'm like, geez, man, I look like Sheldon, first of all, from Big Bang Theory. I was just it was just winging it. And it was I was filmed on the original iPad, the first iPad that had a camera on it. It was filmed on that. So it looks a little bit orange, but I was so naive. I was like, man, this is sick. Everything I'm creating is so sick at the time, but I'm just so naive and not knowing how bad it was. And I think a lot of my success in business early on came from being so naive on how bad it was and keep working to the point where it got less sucky, to the point where it just sucked, to the point where it was okay, to the point where it just kind of moved up a little bit. You know what I mean?
It's like sports, right? And how many high school and college kids think they're so awesome and they're at the pinnacle. And then if I went and played against college senior me, I would tear him to pieces. Wouldn't even be close. So you see all these, big chested young men walking around thinking how big and bad they are. And we were all there. And yeah, we created these versions. I put a video out on YouTube. It's going to make me millions. No, you're going to have to do that another few 100,000 times.
You know what the big realization I had is when I was younger and I was in like, say like I was 25, I had this weird vision that like what business was online. Because eventually my business turned into me drinking daiquiris on the beach and, having some drinks. And like, there's this business over there that's just turning cash and everything. I'm just sitting there living the life. And, you see it online all the time. I realized that's bullshit. That's not true. That doesn't happen. Yeah. And I'm part of like a business program. I invest a lot of money into it to be coached by, some good coaches in the business.
Nice.
Right? Pardon me?
Nice. So you're part of like a mastermind.
What I was going to say is, so I'm in a group of all these other sell high ticket online fitness. Like these people, we make 6 figures to 7 figures a month. Like we're doing massive sales. They're the best online fitness trainers, right?
Damn.
And every one of them works their face off. None of them are sipping daiquiris on the beach. We are all working hard, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea that we create this vision that people have that you're just going to create a business and do nothing, it's going to turn all these dollars. Even if you created a business that started to do that, it's going to eventually go under. Mm-hmm. Whoever is the person that starts the business, whoever the CEO, whoever's the guy, they need to maintain being the guy in some way, shape, or form and have control over all these things. Now, you can sure get big enough and you can do multiple things, but you still have to have either be in there or have someone so good just under you that you have complete trust in that can run it. But all I want to say is, if anyone's watching this that's an athlete that wants to become an entrepreneur and your vision is you sitting on the beach drinking daiquiris all day where you have this money machine that just generates revenue, that's not real. Sorry to break it to you.
Yeah, not real. I do, one thing that I've done and has always actually was the original plan and is still kind of working for me is I kind of realized that beach volleyball was not the high profit ticket. I was walking around the South Bay here in California and I was just like looking at all these houses that can see the Pacific Ocean. And I go, I'm not that dumb. How are all these people that much smarter than me or have that much more money than me? And I was like, they just got to be applying pressure in a better place. There's got to be like this pressure point in the body or in the financial world that creates these massive results. And so that's when I found real estate. And I said, okay, anytime I see a little bit of profit from anything I do in volleyball, I'm going to throw it into a house. I'm going to buy a property. And I've been doing that about one a year since I started that mindset. And I do eventually want to get to the point where I have that option. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure you're the same way. I know at least one of my brothers is. We get addicted still, and it's a personal flaw to hard work.
Yeah.
And it's like there has to be a moment where you just allow yourself to slow down and then be constantly around the people that you love. But then you get that little lifestyle creep where you buy something a little bit more expensive, or you think like, man, 200,000 in my bank account's not enough. And some people, if you listen to Grant Cardone, if you have under $1 million in your bank account, he says you're dead broke. What if something bad happens? And you're just like, what? Oh no.
It's funny what you just said there. You reminded me a quote of do you know who Alex Hormozy is? He's this online, this guy is so good. And you were just talking about like playing beach volleyball and the idea that beach volleyball, I can work super hard at beach volleyball, but it's not going to get me to the point by playing beach volleyball, I'm going to own a house in the Pacific Ocean. So the way that Alex words it is it's not always how hard you paddle, but the boat you are in. Right. And so the boat you are in when you play beach volleyball, you can paddle as hard as you possibly can, but you're not going to get that very far if your goal is to have a lot of money. Right. But if you're a real estate guy buying up properties and they're all scaling, these assets are all growing, well, that boat, you can row fast. And if you row fast, it's going to could give you a massive return. But that return is impossible if you're playing just beach volleyball. So that's where the quote comes in. It's not always how hard you row, but the boat that you get into. For me, it was the same thing with personal training. I can do as much personal training as I want, rowing harder and harder and harder, but like it's the boat I'm in is not going to take me very far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hope people at some point learn that. And I know a lot of people who might eventually listen to this episode might be from obscure sports or might be from the popular ones. You might want to be the ultimate fencing coach in your area. And are you going to be able to make bank from that? Maybe, maybe not. But at some point, you've got to figure out how to diversify, how to multiply your money in some way. And it's not going to come from going back to the beginning of this talk, like that I'm just doing personal training or I'm just doing private lessons. You have to keep growing that team, and you have to think about your your money as a team for you financially as well. Like, where can I put some of these dollars that's going to be steady if this thing crumbles? Like, if beach volleyball just disappeared tomorrow, where would you be? What could you do? And that was that ties into one of the questions that I had for you. Said that you're doubling down on Instagram, and I do want to tell everybody, do that. Master one platform, but keep the other ones being fed so that at least you have an audience, because we just lost our Instagram account for a month. We did what Bounce Beach does and took a highlight, posted it, gave full credit to the people, and we got a copyright strike, and they banned our account. And luckily we got it back. Our YouTube channel got hacked and we lost it for 3 weeks this year. My Facebook ads account got hacked and $9,000 were spent on my credit card in a day for selling handbags. And all of these things say, if we didn't have any other system, if we didn't have emails, if we didn't have YouTube, if we didn't have a good Facebook group, if we didn't have an Instagram, you're screwed. So double down, like, go hard, get good at one thing. But also remember that one of those things can be taken from you at any moment. And then do you have a backup? So we have 2 Instagram accounts. One of them's got way less because we put way less effort into it, but at least we would hit the ground running with 4,000 followers, instead of going from 0. And one of my friends who does some business coaching, she says that your email list is gold. So as soon as you can get all those people off of whatever social media platform they are, have their contact information or emails in your computer, and then also on an external hard drive, like, if you have that, you will always have something, no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
So for everybody out there, do what Reid's doing. Go hard in one direction, but see if you can just litter the rest of the rest of them.
So the way that I do it is because short form video is so popular. I have a person that edits the short form video. We design it so it's more like our call to action. Everything fits nicer in Instagram. Then they repurpose it to TikTok, repurpose it to YouTube, repurpose it. They put it on Facebook. They do all that. And like our Facebook, I know we've been running it now, like focused on it for a few months. There's 12,000 followers there. Our TikTok, I don't even have the app on my phone, and I've got about 10,000 followers. That's not a lot, but at least it's like, it's moving, but I'm not putting any attention on it. I
popped into it the other day and I looked at my personal. I was like, holy crap, I've got 50,000 followers on TikTok. Like, oh, that's right. I told the virtual assistants to make one post every single day.
Yeah.
I don't know how to send a message on TikTok, but whatever, it's there if and when I need it.
That stuff is so distracting. You open that stuff, it's just these dopamine stimulus hits. It's just like hitting you one after the other. It's just like
hearts decorating the screen. Okay, I have to run, but I've got 2 other things. The one thing I just want to know is, just to help anybody else out, what do you think is your weakness or your biggest weakness as a CEO?
I would say my biggest weakness is just making sure I'm over communicating with my employees without micromanaging them. And so what I mean by that is communicating messages to the people that help me, but giving them some freedom at the same time to develop in their skill set. Because if I'm micromanaging everyone, then I'm making them suck at the stuff that I suck at without even knowing, because I'm putting my personal bias on there.
That's funny.
So for me, you want like defined roles, but you want them to have leeway, and you want to find, my other struggle is finding people that are good at the things that I suck at, right? And identifying those things I suck at. So those are important things. So to summarize, I'd say 1 is communication to your teammates, having teammates or the people you work with. 2 is having systems so you can do that communication properly. And 3, doing it in a way where you're not micromanaging them.
I like that. And before we get to our special offer for anybody who's listening, guys, Reid's got a very special offer for any of you who are listening coming up right after this one question. I do want to say this is an opportunity for you maybe to find your next rock star that you need. But if money were no object, what person or role would you hire right now to get you to that next level? Or if you just like could Matrix style inject kung fu into your head, like one skill set into your head, what would that be? Who would be your beast, your white
Yeah,
whale of a employee?
I think that the tough part is I would want to hire a person that's like the best expert in strength and conditioning, physiology, the exercise physiology space that also has the ability to communicate things well to other people. Because like if I can have that person, if I'm on the top of the total, like if I'm here and I direct all these people down, I can put someone here, right? And that can do that, that has that knowledge, that passion, that role, and that can trickle down and help all these people. Because then I could separate myself and focus on some other areas. This role is very hard to fill because when you find someone so excellent that can fill that role and be really successful, they just want to do something on their own, right?
Yeah.
So I want to find someone that could, essentially be like me, but better, but can fill that role. So I can focus more on other things like, developing marketing plans, helping support other people. I would just want to take more of a stand back role. But to be honest, at this time in my life, I don't want that. I'm happy with my foot on the gas and where I am. But in the future, I would love that person because if I start having more kids, I have a young baby, you have a young baby. So, there's things where we want to not only dedicate all our energy here, but maybe into our little one. And if I have another baby and keep building my family, you know what I mean? There has to be some flexibility in what I'm doing.
Cool. I love that. Yeah, I think personally, like I started that, 4 years into mine, and I found Brandon. Who was that? He's not the fitness guy, but he is the volleyball guy. So he knows how to teach. He comes from the education background. Very, very, very good coach, great communicator, and just a natural leader. And so we found that, and we've been able to, whatever I want him to take charge of, he does it, and he controls it, and he figures out a way to do it well. And now I think we're getting to the point where we need some specialists. Neither of us are salespeople. We are great communicators, but I did just drop 10 grand on a sales course, which is starting to pay off. And I'm like, that purchase in December is definitely going to pay off, mostly because I hacked their funnel. I looked at their website. I looked at all their opt-ins. I took a screenshot of every point in the process, and I said, what are they doing really well? Because if they're a monster sales company charging this much, they got to know their stuff. And we implemented a bunch of the stuff that I found in their funnel and their opt-in process, and now it's churning it out. So pretty stoked on that.
No, it's incredible.
Yeah. So guys, also learn from other people by signing up from their stuff.
Yeah.
Like go through and pay attention to every time you enter an email and what page you land on. Look at that and see if it's better than your process. Then go back, use a ghost email, and go through your process and see if it makes any sense or if it followed the same trail as a successful company that you guys are seeing.
Absolutely.
So, cool, Reid. So your special offer for anybody who's listening, I want you to go ahead and present it.
Yeah. So what I help volleyball players with is I help them jump higher and gain strength intelligently by having a very personalized training service where myself and our other Vert Strength specialists service you. And so it's basically how we deliver it is we start off with a free strategy session where we can chat over Zoom and discuss your goals, your training experience, injuries. And that's what leads us into your initial training, where in your initial workouts, you're leaving videos, getting your exercise execution analyzed and determining what your future training looks like, right? And so that's our package. And we both have a 90-day and 6-month package. And I mean, if this is something that you're interested in, you're coming in for hearing this exclusively on Mark's podcast or the Better at Beach Athlete Entrepreneur podcast, if you are from that podcast and you mention that, I will give you a 10% discount on it.
Oh, snap. Awesome. So guys, if you're listening here and you want to sign up for one of Reid's workout programs, specifically volleyball workouts, he's got a 10% discount for you. We're going to include the link below. So go ahead and sign up for one of his strategy calls and go get fit and go get a vertical. And it's really nice of you to offer a 10% discount for everybody who's there. That's pretty awesome. And it's a deal that I wouldn't let go of, guys. So go ahead, click and follow him. And I will just have you say out loud, just in case people are listening, where do you live and what Instagram should people be following, or how do they find you and reach out to you if they have more questions?
Yeah. So I'm from Canada. I'm in Burlington, Ontario, which is about 20 minutes or about 30 minutes west of Toronto. That's where I'm based out of. The best place to follow me would be at Reid's Workouts. So my name, REIDS, and then Workouts, at Reid's Workouts. The best part to find me is on Instagram. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can always just send me a DM on Instagram.
Cool. Awesome. Reid, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it. For everybody else, thanks for listening. All the links you can ever want are below. If you love the episode, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to the whole show, and share this with a friend. If you have somebody who's starting out as a coach, as a fitness, as a personal trainer, wants a facility, or is a volleyball player, go ahead and share this with them. It means a lot to us. And that's all from us. Everybody, have a great day.
Thank you, guys.